what's wrong with me. I'm about to have an MRI.
So we should just go home and get you better.
I mean, you do whatever you think is best for you.
There's no way I'm staying in the competition with Jen in a hospital room. It's been a very long couple days, but Jen's doing so much better. I know how heartbreaking it was for her to leave this competition, and for me to get back in it would mean everything. So we talked a little bit, and Jen definitely wants to see me in Last Chance Kitchen. I'm gonna lay it all out there and push as hard as I can and make her proud.
Welcome to the Eat Your Content podcast. I'm your host, Rich Herrera. Thank you for joining me and tuning in to all things food and pop culture here on the podcast. Just a reminder to follow me on socials at Rich Herrera and at Eat Your Content, and to like and subscribe on your podcast player of choice so you know when new episodes drop. You can keep up with all the goings on with the podcast. We are in episode 7 of Top Chef season 23. It's an all dessert filled episode. We have some shockers at the end that we're going to talk about. It was fast paced. There's a lot going on. And joining me once again this week to cover everything is Top Chef season 22 participant, Chef Corwin Hemming. Chef Corwin, how's it going?
What's up, Rich? We're back. We're halfway through. We're cruising along. Things are getting more clear. There's a lot to talk about this episode. This is good. It's getting good. It's getting juicy at this point. We're close to Restaurant Wars too.
Yeah, next week is Restaurant Wars. We actually got a preview, a little bit of that at the end of this episode with right before they ended the episode, went to Last Chance Kitchen, and there's so much to that was going on. And all the stuff was kind of in the latter half of the episode is really where the big talking points are. But let's start at the beginning. I want to kind of go through this in chronological order. I was really tempted to start at the end and then go back to the beginning, but
that's what I did. I told you I was doing that last week. That's 100% what I did. 100%.
I know I did too. I watched Last Chance Kitchen first to see what was going on, and then I went back and watched the episode proper. But
joke's on us, because they talked about what happened in Last Chance Kitchen in the actual episode, and we got clarity there before we went. Yeah, it was just, you had to watch both.
Yeah, it was wild. You had to watch both. You got to watch it in order. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go in chronological order. We're going to kind of speed run through some of this because the juicy stuff is towards the end. But and again, speculations abound. But let's see how it goes. So we're going to jump right into the Quickfire, which is sponsored by Cracker Barrel. I got to tell you, I have a guilty pleasure with Cracker Barrel. I do when I'm on a road trip and I see that sign, and I need something more than a drive-through burger. I stop in, and it's reasonably priced. It's decent food. Are you a Cracker Barrel fan, or are you kind of like?
Actually, I've eaten at a Cracker Barrel maybe once or twice in my life. I'm a Waffle House guy, or IHOP. So growing up, my mom she grew up in New Jersey, so we would do IHOP with her. She loves IHOP pancakes growing up. So we would do IHOP with my mom, and then if it was me and my older brother when we were in like high school, I grew up in Georgia, so like Waffle House was the place to go. So I'm a Waffle House guy through and through, but I love some IHOP classic pancakes.
So this is sponsored by Cracker Barrel, and the challenge was the chefs were divided into 3 teams, and each team had to create a breakfast, lunch, and dinner dish inspired by Cracker Barrel's all-day menu. And they have 45 minutes, which initially sounded like a lot. They're like, oh yeah, we could do this 45 minutes. But the twist was that they had one chef can only cook at a time. So one chef could cook at a time on the teams. So really you only had 15 minutes each, which was an interesting dynamic. You saw some trying to divide the time up evenly in 15-minute increments. You had some that took a little longer, which kind of made it a little bit harder on the latter half of that challenge. Is the strategy here to try to do 15 minutes, or if you're breakfast, because breakfast is quick. Yeah. I think the strategy should have been get breakfast done in like 10 minutes, and then because dinner's going to be the hardest one, and let the dinner chef try to have as much time as possible.
Yeah, you gotta be efficient. I don't care where you go in your rankings. Just if you're first, you can't drag, because then you just steal the time away from the mid course, which is going to steal time away from dinner. So I think the first person sprinting is really the most important of the 3, so that your team can just properly move efficiently, and things get backed up. But there was a couple people who we saw like stole a little bit of time on accident, and it suffers. Like it hurts your team's ability to actually win the whole challenge.
Yeah. So the guest judges were Madison LaCroix and Craig Conover from Southern Charm. I have not seen that show, so I didn't know
Right.
who they were.
Yeah, I was like, okay, cool.
Cool. Yeah. Nice. I was waiting for the confessionals to go, oh, I love Southern Charm. I'm a big fan of Madison LaCroix. Like sometimes when I see those guest judges come in that are celebrities and the confessionals are like, oh, I love that show. I'm like, do you really? You're not convincing me in your confessional,
I don't know.
but they didn't do that.
As we found out last episode, the chef's got weird quirks, man. You'd be surprised. Like, what was it? Anthony having that little the toy thing that they paint.
Yeah. Warhammer,
With,
Lawrence.
yeah. I was like, what is that? I've never heard of that before. So I like literally went and did some research just to see what it was. Like, when did it come out? When was it popular? But show's got weird quirks, man. Maybe somebody might be a super fan. I mean, you never know.
Never know.
Never know.
So the orange team consisted of Lawrence, Oscar, and Sherry. The yellow team was Anthony, Brandon, and Jonathan, and the green team was Duyen, Jennifer, and Justin. So for the orange team, Oscar was in charge of breakfast. He made a pan de elote with berries, maple, and piloncillo. Sherry did lunch with a crab and shrimp bisque with hoe cake, and Lawrence did dinner with chicken tenders with 5-spice butter and syrup. I thought the orange team did pretty well. If Lawrence, and we heard this in the judging, if Lawrence had cooked that chicken all the way through, I think the orange team could have pulled this one out because the 5-spice butter and syrup sounds amazing. And Oscar with his Mexican style pancake, I thought looked really, really good. So orange team, just one little slip up away from winning the thing. What do we think overall of that whole team?
I'm starting off. Oscar he made a comment. He said Tom really loved my spice component from the marshmallow challenge, and he's like, I kind of want to lean into that. And I think that is just smart cooking. Once you find out like something that the judges like, and you can like obviously not repeat a dish, but like kind of tune into like a flavor profile that won you some shine, stick there. Like that's good cooking. Like that's smart Top Chef cooking, I think, because then it's like, all right, I'm cooking towards the judges like palate now. Like that, I've had a couple cooks to like kind of see what they like, and I've tasted some stuff that kind of goes in a direction like stay there. That's a successful way to like kind of approach it, obviously, in the Top Chef kitchen.
Yep. The yellow team was Anthony, Brandon, and Jonathan. Brandon did breakfast with eggs Benny, a rushed hash brown, and a shortcut hollandaise. Anthony was lunch with a fried green tomato and country ham sandwich with salmon roe and avocado. Jonathan was dinner with smothered steak and bourbon pan gravy. The dinner, Jonathan's smothered steak looked really good. Like when I think Cracker Barrel and comfort food, his smothered steak is exactly what I think about. And the fried green tomato sandwich I thought was really good too because it was very southern. With I thought maybe the salmon roe might have been a little too much, but I like the inclusion of the country ham instead of bacon. I thought that was a nice little twist and easier on them as chefs because there's nothing to have to cook. So what did we think of the yellow team there?
I thought they just executed just good Southern food. The fact that Brandon came out the gates with like quick hash browns, I was like, oh, I'm gonna love this. Like I love hash browns. That's like my go-to when I go to like Waffle House. And so I saw that, and he like kind of rolled it inside and like covered it with a quick hollandaise. He was like, I'm gonna make this in like 5 to 8 minutes because I'm gonna blitz the hollandaise and a Vita Prep instead of like sitting there whisking it and taking too much time. But I think that it's something that we've talked about from the beginning. Whoever is gonna cook not only to the theme of each challenge, but like a style of Southern cuisine to each challenge is going to have success. And this team did that, like 1, 2, 3, bang, and it worked. The smothered steak at the end. I was like, okay, you clearly saw this team won it. Like they didn't make any mistakes. They executed really calmly, and then they put up these dishes, and I was like, all three of them I would eat. Like that sounds fire.
Yeah, the yellow team there looked really, really good. Especially like I said with that dinner, the smothered steak just looked amazing. Some mashed potatoes, like one of the judges said, the guest judges put that on a bed of mashed potatoes, and then I'm taking a nap. That was fantastic.
100%.
So the green team was Duyen, Jennifer, and Justin. Justin did breakfast with a New York strip corned beef hash, mustard Sauvignon sauce, and hash browns. Duyen also did a fried green tomato with a country ham sandwich. And Jennifer did dinner with a cornmeal battered fried oysters with lemon pepper and creamed corn. All three were, not so great. Justin overcooked it. He deep fry it and he cut it up in chunks and then deep fried it. So it went way too long. It was too tough. Jennifer's cornmeal battered fried oysters were too wet. So it didn't come out with the consistency that they were looking for. But I think the green team was the clear least favorite out of all three of them. I thought it was the right choice to put them under the least favorite. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I mean it's exactly what I said starting off this episode. Whoever leads off is gonna be the most important. And Justin overcooked his and like immediately went past 15 minutes, and I was like, oh, and he, his partner, she was basically like, I'm not the speed guy. Like I'm not the fast cooking, can handle the pressure of like being behind. Like that's not my style. And he just set his team up for failure. I would have just cooked the whole steak. I would just deep fried the whole steak. Like I would
Yeah.
season it and deep fried the whole thing, and then progressed from there. Because then even if he would have like achieved a medium rare on like a deep fried steak, he could have sliced it and showed off the cuisson. But he made a mistake. I think he was thinking about like, what's the fastest way to do this? Let me cube the steak. And yes, but in Top Chef Kitchen, you go run to your cutting board. And the Top Chef Kitchen's massive. And if you're in the corner and then the fryer's all the way on the other side of the kitchen, those 30 seconds of you trying to get back and forgetting that you had something just swimming in the fryer is like, that's just, it's hard, it's tough. And so I think that that's where like you've got to plan out smart meals in certain challenges and be like, all right, look, screw what's cute and artsy, screw what's this, let's stick right at the challenge and then let me do just that. And I think that that whole team, like the cascading effect of losing the time, just completely set them up for failure. And everybody was kind of rushing to try to get back, and they're thinking about the next person, and it wasn't everybody's fault, but like losing those first couple of minutes definitely just set them up for failure.
Yeah, I mean, hats off to Du Yen for trying to make up some time, and Jennifer was smart to try to use the already made cornmeal from one of the previous dishes there. So, they tried to make up some time, but it was just too much when Justin took too long. The other two teams were clocking in at about 15 minutes each, and Justin went past that. He went about 17, 18 minutes. And yeah, and you're out of time to cook the rest of lunch and dinner. So the least favorite was the green team, and the winning team was the yellow team, and they get to split $20,000. So good job to the yellow team, and more money in the bank for that. So again, that quick fire, quick cash coming in handy for a lot of chefs, even if you
2%.
don't win. What's that?
2%.
2%. 2%. I'm not saying it. You can't make me say it. Going straight into the elimination challenge. There's no rest for the weary because we go right into the elimination challenge. No field trip, no shopping, no nothing. So they go right in. They ended the quickfire challenge, and then they have 3 hours to make a dessert. So the guest judge is Melissa Benoist from Supergirl. Big Supergirl fan. I love that show. Love the CW whole Arrowverse series of shows. So big fan of hers. The challenge was to create a dessert fit for a queen because Charlotte, North Carolina was named after Queen Charlotte, who loved desserts. And the chefs were able to choose one Southern dessert from a huge cake display as inspiration for their dessert. And then the twist we talked about, they only had 3 hours to make their dessert right after the quick fire. And then they have to make enough for 60 Top Chef super fans, which I guess my invitation got lost in the mail there. Bravo, NBC Universal. I don't know what happened there because I clearly, should have been there. But anyway, so so a Southern inspired dessert challenge. What are some of the challenges here when you're already seeing an inspiration or where you're already seeing a dessert and you have to try to make something that is inspired by it, but veers off differently enough to stand apart from what you were trying to do?
Going too far. Like if you're taking something and deconstructing it and turning it into like a savory dish, or vice versa, if you had a savory dish and you have to turn it into a dessert, super easy. Go as hard as you possibly can go with the ingredients. But this one is you're taking a dessert and creating another dessert. So I think losing the dessert is where we saw a lot of people not get, they just sat in the middle or were at the bottom three. And so I think you just got to like kind of stick to like what makes each of these desserts great. And the hard part is if you've never had that dessert before, then like, I've never had an ambrosia cake before. So to me, I'm like, I would have struggled if that would have been the dessert I got. But I think just going too far and not sticking to the challenge is like where people lose their marbles in the Top Chef kitchen.
Yeah, and another challenge too is I was kind of amazed at how many non-dessert cooking chefs there were in this cast.
Mhm.
One of the twins, I can't remember which one, but one of the twins was a pastry chef.
Yeah.
The other one wasn't, and then a lot of the other chefs, they're just like, look, I don't make desserts. And I think what I like about Top Chef the most is that it forces you as a contestant to be a well-rounded chef. Like you have to go in knowing everything. You can't be a specialist. You have to go in knowing everything, how to be a savory chef, how to be a pastry chef, how to cook with primitive fire sometimes.
How to
So
make breads. There's a
yeah,
lot of things you
how to
gotta be able to
bake.
do.
Yeah, and desserts and baking is a science. It's not like savory cooking where you can add a dash of this and a pinch of that and be okay. You actually need to measure this stuff out by grams, or else it's going to come out wrong. So knowing this as a Top Chef participant, um, were you big on desserts? Like if you know like 22 seasons Top Chef, I'm gonna have to bake something. I'm gonna have to make dessert on something.
Mhm.
So do you practice that? If you know your weak points, do you practice that?
So I'm lucky enough to like I have enough experience as a chef to be able to like critique a dessert. If I make a dessert, I'm gonna be missing that like fourth gear personally. I can get you to a dessert. I can make components very well. I can make you any component. If like a pastry chef would be like, hey, make me a chocolate swirl. Hey, make me a twill. Hey, make me an ice cream base. I can get you there. But I think being super successful at this in the Top Chef stages, you need to have third, fourth, fifth gear to be able to make a dessert really come together. And I think that that's just the hardest part of like being a savory chef trying to execute desserts is you can make sweet things, you can make ice cream bases, you can use liquid nitrogen, you can do all these things to like make all the components, but like to make a proper dessert the same way you would a savory dish, that's where it gets like technically hard for somebody like myself. I can do it, but like the ceiling's only so high. You're going to be like, okay, like a pastry chef clearly didn't make this, but also it was really good and really well executed. I think that that's what somebody would say if I made a dessert, or I would get lucky and make three components really bang on, and somebody's like, okay, these are three really well executed components that go together. You have a crunch component, you have something soft, and you have something really cold, or vice versa. You throw a cake in there, and so I could get you to there, but I would say myself like I'm not a top tier pastry chef, and it's something that like my whole career I'm like you need to get better at pastries, and I think that that's where like the Top Chef kitchen is going to expose where you are in your total skill set.
Yeah, and that's another thing that Top Chef does really well is that it does expose those weaknesses in your repertoire.
Mhm.
And it does when Top Chef puts you through this gauntlet, you really do come out a better chef than you were when you went in
Yeah,
because you're
100%.
learning these skills and you're learning skills from other people and you realize, "Oh my gosh, I suck at making desserts. If I
Mhm.
want to take my cooking to the next level, I got to be good at that. I can't just be a savory chef." So, I think a lot of those weaknesses were exposed here on this particular challenge. Is there a particular favorite Southern dessert that you saw on the case that you were like, yeah, I know what I could do with that?
Yeah, there was two bread pudding or like the bread pudding. I would have gone for that. And then which one of the twins like sprinted out the gate for the dessert and was like, I have to have it.
Oh, the banana pudding.
The banana
Yeah.
pudding. I fucking love banana pudding. Like I know a lot of people hate it, but our pastry chef currently at Isla is right now is R&Ding a dessert that's like not banana pudding, but it's like the flavors and the essence of banana pudding, and it is to die for. I love it. It's so good, but it's not anything like classical about bread pudding. And so, me personally, I love peach cobbler too. I know that wasn't one of the desserts, but I absolutely love peach cobbler. And so I think I would have had to like get in my bag and really like create something based on like one of those two desserts, whether it's the bread pudding. I would have stayed away from ambrosia cake. I don't know what that is. I'd be like, I'm not doing that. Like, we're just not going there. So, and then the coconut cake would look really nice. That what was it? Anthony went after that one, I believe.
Anthony did the apple stack
The
cake.
apple stack. That's right, from his grandmother's. He had memories of his grandma. But yeah, I think there's a couple good desserts there that I'm like, we're really safe. Like, just stay there. Go with the safe option. Like when it comes to desserts, as a chef in the Top Chef kitchen, if you're not like a super strong pastry chef.
Yeah, for me, like I didn't grow up in the South. I was born in New York. I was raised in Michigan. I came to the South as a preteen. So Southern food was new to me when I came down here. So I came down to Georgia and they're just like, hey, do you want some hominy grits? And I'm like, I give up how many? I just didn't know what it was. And then banana pudding was this dessert I've never had before. And it quickly became my favorite Southern dessert. I
Yeah.
love banana pudding. Love
Yeah.
it, love it, love it. So I was thinking when I was watching this, I'm like, you can't. There's just some Southern desserts you just cannot mess up. Yes, take a creative turn to it, but if it becomes something entirely different, then it's not that anymore. And we saw an example of that as we discuss these dishes. So let's run through in order of when they presented. So Anthony did the apple stack cake.
Yep.
I love apple desserts too. I love the different variety of apples that you get like in an apple pie and stuff like that. So his apple semifredo with apple coulis, spice cake, and apple butters looked amazing. I saw that. I'm like, this is going to be a top one because he was able to get a bunch of different apples in there, and in different forms in the cake and the coulis and the butter. So there was no misunderstanding that this was an apple inspired dessert, apple cake inspired dessert. And he just amped up and he turned up that flavor of apple to 11. And I thought did a really good job of taking that inspiration of the apple cake and making it his own and chefing it up a little bit and making it better. Thoughts on Anthony?
Yeah, I had a lot of success with apples in my season. And I did the exact same thing that Anthony did. I literally said, okay, it's an apple. Like, love or hate it. Some people are like, I hate the basic generic versions of apples we get, Granny Smith, Gala apples, Honey Crisp. Like, there's only so much like room here unless you like go to an apple orchard and you're eating something crazy. But he did something smart. He said, I'm going to take apple and I'm going to give you 5, 6, 7, 8 versions. And I did that, and I had a lot of success there. So he turned it up and it looks great, and the guests were loving it. The good thing about it is like when you go first, like you have all the room to win if you do it well, because it's the first thing that everybody's tasting typically, and it's like, boom, like first thing they're eating, they're excited to eat, they're hungry, their palate's like mouth's watering. And so if you can just knock it out the park right out the gate, like you impress the judges, they're going to remember that as they're tasting everybody else's, because everybody that falls a little bit short after that, it's like they're going to keep going back to the first person.
Yep. Yep. And then Jonathan did a chocolate chess pie with chocolate sabayon, chocolate custard, pate sucre, and candied kumquats. I know chocolate and orange or orange like citrus is a classic combination. I hate that combination. I am not a fan of it. So I saw this and I'm like, oh, kumquats too. I was not a fan. But I like chocolate chess pie in general, but I'm not a fan of this one. I probably would not have liked it. But I mean, judges thought it lacked substance. So I don't know where he fell in the rankings, but
We saw Gail ask a question. They always do this. She said, "What would your grandma have thought about the kumquats in this dessert?" He's like, "Oh,
mm,
she would have been pissed," or whatever he said. And I'm like, ugh, that's like the probing question. You're supposed to be like, "She would have loved it."
yeah,
Fake it till you make it. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't shoot yourself in the foot. She would have hated it. And Gail's probably like, I did too. You know what I mean? Like, that's where they ask probing questions, and I'm like, oh man, you gotta like always go with like, don't give the judges ammo. Like, don't do it. And so yeah, I mean, I think he executed his components well. It just the dessert just didn't come together. Like
yeah,
people listening to the sucre and the sabayon and like how he plated it, everything was nice, but it's just like we're not eating it. We're over here eating it through a TV screen, and so that's where the judges are going to be like super critical and like this was actually like it just didn't come together. And like I said, if you're going behind somebody who knocks it out the park, good luck when you don't knock it out the park.
that's right. Lawrence did a coconut cake, but his version was a coconut tres leches. Judges wanted more coconut, but they loved the texture. I think that's making a coconut cake a tres leches. I think is just a natural progression of that cake. That was a smart idea because then you can use like coconut milk in there and all that and really enhance that coconut flavor. Um, so I don't know. He didn't add enough coconut, so I don't know if he did or didn't. I can't remember if he used coconut milk or not, but clearly, the judges wanted more of that coconut flavor, and unfortunately didn't deliver. But love the texture. I love a good tres leches cake.
Same.
I thought he was heading in the right direction, but wanted more coconut.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, some people hate versions of coconut, but like a different version of coconut. Like me, I'm like, I love coconut milk. I love cream of coconut. I can use like Coco Lopez, like the sweetened cream of coconut, but it's like so sugary that I'm like, I stay away from it just because it just takes over, the sugar content takes over. And then you have coconut oil, and then everybody for some reason hates coconut flakes. I'm convinced that everybody and their mom is just like, I just don't prefer flaky coconut. It's just dried, sits in your teeth, gets in the back of your throat, you're coughing. So I've heard more often than not that people just don't like coconut flakes, which is tough. And so I think it's just a balance of like which coconut profiles you go for and how do you make them work. And tres leches is easy dessert to execute, but I think he just didn't knock it out of the park with the coconut flavor. You can also throw some lime in there to like accentuate the coconut. There's other things you can do. to like really bring the coconut forward. Lemongrass, some kaffir lime would be great. And so there's a lot of directions you can go into where like the coconut's present, but like also you've got a pop of flavor here. And so maybe he just didn't go for it. I don't know.
Yeah. So Du Yen, I think this is where it kind of fell apart for her. Her inspiration was a caramel cake, which again, delicious cake, simple. Caramel icing, layers of vanilla cake. Caramel's the main star of that. And she went in a completely different direction. She did pandan and coconut rice. I love pandan.
Same.
Roasted bananas and dulce de leche sabayon. It really did look confusing. I saw the presentation. I was like, oh, that's rough looking. Like the foam didn't quite stay up. It kind of liquefied there in the martini looking glass. And it was so far from a caramel cake, and it had no callback to that at all. And I think the judges clocked in on that. That she wanted to, and I agree with them when they said, I think she just really wanted to make pandan rice and then try to shoehorn it into the challenge because it really had nothing to do with caramel cake other than the sabayon. So I think she just got too narrowly focused on what this is the dessert I'm going to make. And okay, I'll throw a caramel sabayon in there to make it a caramel cake. But I just don't, it didn't work. I probably would not have finished that dessert. And I'm a big dessert guy. I have a huge sweet tooth, but it looked rough. So I don't know. I don't think she made the right choices here.
Yeah, you gotta stick to the challenge. That's just my one critique is just stick to the challenge first and let the food do the talking second. It's tough. Sometimes you want to have a great idea and you want to wow the judges, but it's like just wow them by staying like simple. Like that's just where I would go with my bread and butter there.
Yep. Jennifer did an Atlantic Beach pie, which hers had Meyer lemon curd and yuzu jelly with saltine and graham cracker crunch. The judges liked it, and they liked that the yuzu was assertive. I've never had an Atlantic Beach pie, but it looked kind of like a variation of like a lemon cream pie or something. So I like yuzu. I thought it probably would have tasted pretty good there, and she's still doing really well with her shoulder injury,
Mhm.
and making this pie here.
Mhm. Yeah, I think at this point it's getting tough on her to like keep going as we saw. But her dessert looked good, I think. But you got to come with it, to be somebody who's like Anthony, who does five variations of it. You got to hit those gears and get out of second gear and like really pick up speed in this competition, especially when more people get knocked out. Like some people can make their bread and butter sitting in the middle, and then like they shine really later on. And I think that's where I was hoping with that with her. But she's got to like be able to like you can make a good dessert that everybody likes, but you got to be able to like hit those gears and like go for it.
Yep. Justin drew the short straw. He got ambrosia salad, which is a throwback to what, like 1970s desserts. And an ambrosia salad, if you've never had one, it's known for being kind of light and airy, and filled with like I don't know, like a fruit cocktail type of
Marshmallows or
mixture.
something. Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah, it's odd. It's odd, but it is a throwback, and it is Southern, so I thought it fit. I'm not a huge fan of ambrosia salad, but he tried to do things a little bit differently. He did a cherry granita, roasted pineapple, brown butter, walnuts, and raspberry whipped cream. He was using liquid nitrogen for the first time on this show, and that is not something you want to do. Like again, it's that rule. If you're doing something for the first time, don't do it on Top Chef because it showed here. It chilled to the point to where it was inedible. The judge said they couldn't taste it because it was so cold and the ratios were off, and it was a quote unquote hot mess, or a cold mess,
Full
as
mess.
Tom Colicchio said. Yeah, it looked bad. It looked bad. He didn't know how to use the liquid nitrogen. I don't know. I probably would have tried to stick to a more classic ambrosia, just maybe change up some ingredients or do something. But whatever he did was not right there.
Yeah. It's all the points you just said, man. Don't try to do something for the first time in Top Chef Kitchen and think it's gonna slide. Like if you've never worked with liquid nitrogen, just don't. That's where like it's technical cooking. As simple as it looks, liquid nitrogen is actually very, very, very technical. You have to know which do you use a balloon whisk? Do you use a paddle? Do you use a dough hook? Like obviously you're not using a dough hook, but you have to know the difference between using a paddle and using the balloon whisk on a KitchenAid and how that aerates with liquid nitrogen. If you use one or the other, it won't work. It just doesn't. You need to be able to incorporate and whip in the cold effects that it drops the temperature far enough without completely stabilizing your cold mixture. So if there's too much water, that liquid nitrogen is going to hit it and it's going to go. Versus if you've got fat in there to be able to fight back and you're whipping air in with the whisk as you're doing it, it could curdle it and make butter. So you need to paddle liquid nitrogen. This is something that like, you know, is super technical when it comes to that. And if you don't know, you don't know. You know, we saw Massimo make that mistake in my season. We saw Vinny do it extremely well in my season. So that's just the difference of knowing versus not knowing. Me personally, I wouldn't experiment with it because I've never used liquid nitrogen to make any dessert or any dessert application. I've used it for other applications, like making a crumble and then re-shattering something that's like it's a crumble. And so it's like I just wouldn't go trying to do something that I never done before because this is exactly what happens. Like, you know, we also saw Vinny in my season make a mistake and like froze his dessert to the bottom as he put a plate on liquid nitrogen. So like that's where it becomes super technical in that, and then it just ruins the texture of your dessert or whatever dish you're doing. And so um I think just bad mistakes, not paying attention to like the rules of like engagement when it comes to Top Chef. There's rules of engagement here that like we've seen over 22 seasons before 23 started of like this is what has tanked chefs notoriously in these challenges. So like stay away from that, you know? Like you gotta that's just gotta be a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, and with liquid nitrogen, once you go too far, there's no coming back. You can't
Gotta
save it.
restart. Gotta
Yeah,
restart.
you got to start all over, and there was no time in this type of challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So Sherry did a sonker. I've never heard of that before. I mean, I don't know what a sonker is. Um,
No,
yeah, so I was like, oh, okay. Berry compote. Her version was a berry compote, almond pate brisée with passion fruit mousse and cotton candy. They said it was undercooked but tasty. I thought cotton candy was a nice little whimsical touch to it, made it kind of fun. But probably one of the middle of the road desserts for tonight. So I don't know what a sonker is. So I couldn't compare it to to the real thing. But I mean, it looked fine. I thought the cotton candy was fun. What'd you think?
yeah, I think Sherry's kind of she's switching gears. I'm gonna keep saying I know it's like a thing that I keep saying, but it's she's switching gears in this challenge and she's really going for it. And sometimes you fall a little bit short, but we're starting to see like Sherry like really like starting to come into herself in this kitchen. Even though she kind of like she had a misstep here. Lawrence had a misstep. It happens in the Top Chef kitchen. The ovens are opening and closing constantly because multiple people are using them. So there's a lot of variables as to like why somebody underbakes or overcooks something that we may not see on camera. But I think I'm liking the direction Sherry's going, and her dessert looked really nice. One of the other chefs, Oscar, said it. He's just like I looked over and peeked and saw what Sherry did and was like, "Oh, I gotta bring it. Like I gotta come with another component just because other people," which is a terrible way to go about it. Like less is more with some desserts. Like if you would have just stayed simple, we'll get to that next, obviously. But I think Sherry, if she would have cooked her base properly, she might have been able to sneak her way into the top 30.
Yep, yep. Oscar, speaking of which,
Yep.
had a Moravian sugar cake as his inspiration. So he did copriottata with whipped cream. The thickness, the pan that he was cooking this bread pudding in was like a 5 gallon bucket. And I'm like, what are you doing? That there was no way that was going to cook through all the way through, or that cream was going to work its way through that many layers of bread. Like this is one of those moments where you're looking at the TV and you're shouting, right? And you're like, "What are you doing?"
Mhm.
So when you saw that big pan, and even the other chefs were like, "Oh my god, you see what Oscar's doing over there? What were you thinking there?"
It gave me PTSD a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. The challenge I actually got knocked out on was we had to cook for 150 people, and we had 2 hours to prep. And the whole time I was prepping, I was like, I need to like, obviously like didn't get the salt cod, but the production level to cook for that many people gave me like, oh fuck, like this is a lot. Like I've got to run and prep the whole time and make enough because they were like, we're gonna judge your ability to cook for 150 people. We're gonna give you a stack of 150 plates. And if at the end of the challenge we look at your mise en place and you've got like a stack of 100, you clearly like knocked yourself out. So I think that's where my anxiety level watching this and being like, oh, we're cooking for a room full of people. I'm like, who's gonna run out of mise en place? And I think he kind of went way too far with that 60 versus like 60 dainty portions versus 150 portions. That's where it gets dicey, you know what I mean? And I think the numbers scared him. I think the volume of we've only been cooking for, you know, 12 people or less in this competition thus far. And then you go from these small plates that boom, bang on your prep. And I think that gave him like cold feet. And he's like, I need the biggest vessel I can find. It's like, no, bro, you don't. You just grab 200 hotel pans and like stay in those and like just make enough and scoop less, excuse me, scoop less. And that's clearly where his mistake happened, because his bread pudding was like overbaked, underbaked, perfectly baked at the same time. He had all three variations of like the same thing on his plate. Just the spectrum of cooking was all over the place, and that's what shot him in the foot. And then he starts looking at Sherry's plate and overwhips his cream, and then still serves it. Like, that's to me just not a good idea. Like, you can't. It's not gonna get past the judges. Like, don't. You're not gonna win them over with bad cooking. That's not it.
Yeah, let's talk about the broken whipped cream, which I thought was pretty funny, and the dichotomy between, us as super fans and then professional chefs and judges. Um, Tom was really fixated on that broken whipped cream, and everybody else, the super fans, are like, it was fine. And even Melissa Benoist's like, look, I don't have the eye to spot a broken whipped cream. To me, it tasted good, she said. And I kind of thought the same thing. Like, your normal, civilian isn't probably gonna fixate on that. But when I saw the finished dish, when they were the beauty shot of it, I was like, oh, that whipped cream is about 3 revolutions away from being butter.
Yeah.
And I was like, ugh. So I
Yeah.
could see it.
See,
But a lot of
that's
the
the
guests
difference.
didn't.
That's the difference for cooking for Tom versus an average person. Tom is a classically trained chef, and he's looking for fault. Like, Tom is going to taste, but the whole time he's looking at the dish, he's looking for something wrong.
Mhm.
And that's because it's like, this is Top Chef. Execution needs to be there. If you do something and you call a dish a certain thing, it should be as close to that as possible with your variation and twist and flavor. And that's where, like, just, things aren't going to skate by in the Top Chef kitchen. You're not going to be able to put something up and call it one thing, and it's just very far from there. And we said this a couple challenges ago. Oscar's got to get more technical in his ability to see and have attention to detail. That's where in the beginning of this episode you said, one thing. You're going to leave the Top Chef kitchen a lot better than you started. I did. I for sure did. I left being like, I need to go surround myself with better talent. I need to go surround myself with people who can help me elevate my game in terms of teammates or mentors. I knew exactly, like, leaving Canada, like, what I needed to like improve in my personal game. And I think Oscar is going to get that from this Top Chef experience. He's gonna get that, especially watching it back on camera, and he's had time, like, he's had 6 months to think about, you know, his highs, his lows, his mistakes, his successes on Top Chef. And if he's smart, he'll take that and self-absorb it and be like, this is where I want to see my personal progression onto the next level as a chef, and get better. And I 100% did. I left the Top Chef kitchen with a fire lit. It's like, I want to do this, and it worked. And it made me a better chef.
Yep. Yep. And then Brandon, finishing things off, he's the one that made a beeline for the banana pudding. So that was his inspiration. He made a banana misu, kind of an amalgamation of a banana pudding and a tiramisu. Roasted banana compote, espresso dipped wafers, and whipped cream. The judges thought there was a good ratio of everything and that it was tasty. This is what I was talking about when you have a classic or inspiration and then just taking it to a different level and making it still recognizable as a banana pudding, but going, oh, this is different. And I thought he had a good idea with banana misu. For me though, I'm really sensitive to coffee. I'm not a huge coffee drinker. I feel like, obviously I couldn't taste it, but I feel like the tiramisu part may have overtaken the banana part. I don't know. I guess it depends on how long he, dipped the espresso wafers and how long they were soaking in the coffee there. But I thought it was a good idea on paper. I like the amalgamation of those two things, but it didn't really resonate, unfortunately, with the diners. But good idea. Just I don't know. Was it execution maybe that it didn't ring for the diners there?
Banana is also something that, like, people love or hate. So it's like, did he just get a group of people that just didn't love banana? I don't know. I thought, so let's talk about his technical cooking, because the second he took all the bananas and like roasted them in their skins, I was like, oh, he's going in the right direction, like, technically
Yeah.
wise. We in my restaurant, I roast plantains the same way. We take whole plantains, we roast them in the skin till literally they're bubbling and like caramelizing inside their own skins, and it gives the banana or the plantain like a much better, sweeter, softer, more caramelized flavor profile than just like eating into it raw. And so I think, like, out the gate, I was like, oh, he's doing things right. Like, I like what I see here. And then, made a really good dessert. Took all those components, treated it well. Banana and coffee notoriously go together. But maybe I think going last was also in his favor, because the people that made their mistakes in between, you start with Anthony, who did it really well, and then you finish with him. I think he finished strong, so I'm not mad at it, but maybe he just got a group of people that just didn't love banana. I'm just gonna willing to chalk it up there, because I think he executed very well. I think I liked his dessert. I liked the direction he went in.
Yeah. So another twist in this elimination challenge is the judges didn't pick the winner. The 60 diners did. The 60
Yeah.
super fans. They all had a little coin thing, and they all went around and put it in the box of the dessert they liked the most. So the top 3 vote getters were Lawrence, Anthony, and Sherry. And a winner by one vote was Anthony with his spiced cake inspired dessert. I don't remember hearing. I would have liked to have heard who was the person he beat by one vote. I would have been really interested to see who that was, to see how close it was. But Anthony wins, so he has a sweep. He was on the winning team on the Quickfire, and he won the elimination challenge. So there's going to be some sweep bonus points coming your way on the draft that we'll talk about here in a little bit. But let's get straight to judges table, because this is where all the action happened in the episodes for me. So the judges did pick the bottom 3, which was Justin, Oscar, and Duyen, which I didn't think was a surprise. Those 3 were clearly on the bottom compared to everybody else. Justin was eliminated, and normally that's the end of the episode, but wait, there's more. So they call all the chefs back, and they immediately announce restaurant wars. And we all know it's coming. When it gets down to 8 people, we know it's going to be restaurant wars. But there's some new twists here. So they announced that in 2 Teams 4, they got to open up a restaurant in 36 hours. So normally it's like 24, I think, but 30, 36. So they get a longer time here. Teams are chosen on the spot. So team 1 was Jonathan, Brandon, Jennifer, and Oscar. Team 2 was Sherry, Anthony with immunity, and Lawrence and Duyen. They have 1 hour right then to create their concept, and then they added a twist with having to field takeout orders for this version of Restaurant Wars. So before we go further there, let's talk about up until that point. So what do you think of the addition of being able to field takeout orders? Like, we always think of Restaurant Wars as a pop-up fine dining restaurant, right?
Yeah.
They're putting out their best food, their best effort, and now you're talking about takeout orders, which to me doesn't necessarily say fine dining, but you think about what happened during COVID, right? You had places like Alinea doing takeout orders.
Mhm.
So that's the reality that we live in as a restaurateur. Takeout orders were the saving grace of a lot of restaurants during that time. So I think adding it to here is just a reflection of the times we live in, which I think Top Chef does a really good job of changing its show and reinventing itself to not just be a trendsetter in the restaurant industry, but to see where the restaurant industry is and put that on screen. So, what do we think of setting up Restaurant Wars before next week and kind of knowing who the teams are and everything and the concept, and then this twist of the takeout order piece?
This season is just not, it's they're going in so many different directions in a good way. Like, they're like, let's just break the mold. Let's change everything. Let's change Last Chance Kitchen. Let's change how we do this. Let's change this. Let's change that. We've done it for 23 years. There have been so many similarities in these 23 years. They're like, let's change it. Let's go for it. And and it's adding a mix. Like, the first 2 people knocked out weren't even invited to LCK. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. It's giving they're I think they're not bored, but they want to see the chefs respond, I think. Because if you imagine being like, oh, I've watched all 23 seasons of Top Chef over time, and being like, I've got the game figured out, and then you come in and you're like, oh shit, I don't know what they're doing. So I think that this is where the Top Chef production team is just like, let's just change the game. Even watching like how Tom is like doing things in LCK with the knife pull, like, I'm like, oh, they didn't do that in my season. I hadn't seen that before in LCK. We saw that in the regular season, and so there's just a lot. I think they're just getting mixy. They're like, let's just every episode be as creative as possible to try to throw curveballs their way to see how they do. And the to go concept, like, that's cool. Like, we did see a lot of people do it during COVID. It saved a lot of restaurants, man. We saw like 2 Michelin stars serving burgers and fries. You know what I mean? Like, like to go, like paper bags, stapled orders to it, and it's a part of the game. Like, you as a chef, like, in a concept, especially the higher you go, let's say you get up to executive chef level, you get up to the corporate chef level, you've got to be able to like articulate business across the board. And everything's not about tasting menus and plating dainty food. Like, You know, in my restaurant, if you come in, like we get PPX people where we'll cook one really sexy small dish for you, and then there might be a group of 4 people that get like a whole fish. You know what I mean? Like that, like we just had in house that day that we ordered just for that person. And so you've got to be able to cook in multiple different like levels and like, you know, be able to show off like how versatile you are. And I think this is a good way. It switches it up. It's not like about and I think they'll still make cute food. Don't get me wrong. Like they'll still get dainty in this to go concept. Like it's not going to be like dumpster to go boxes of food like billowing out. But I think this gives something a little bit like reimagined in terms of food from these chefs. Maybe they started at a McDonald's. Maybe somebody's first cooking job was Chipotle in this group, and they're like, oh, like this is cool. Like I get to kind of get back to my roots. Like I don't know, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm going to be real interested to see how this new takeout wrinkle works itself out because it's, running in front of the house is chaotic enough. Watching 23 seasons of Restaurant Wars, you live and die at the front of the house. So having to now that front of house manager having to now deal with takeout orders on top of incoming customers is going to be really interesting to see who they end up choosing to be that front of house manager and having to deal with all that. So
I wonder
looking
if they're
forward
gonna
to
have a
next week
drive-through
and
window.
what's that?
I wonder if they're gonna have a drive-through window. Put
Yeah,
pizza
right.
in.
A drive-through window, right?
Can I take your order, please?
So let's talk about the kind of shocker ending leading into Last Chance Kitchen. So there was something going on weird with Jennifer's face. It was swollen, kind of droopy. It looked kind of like there was a stroke happening, but confirmed that it wasn't. But it was swollen. She was in a lot of pain. So they pretty much pull her out of the competition for her own safety. So the producers are like, look, you cannot continue in this state of physical illness and physical ability that you're on right now with your shoulder and now what's going on with your face. We got to get you checked out. So
Yeah.
they pull her and they send her to the ER to get checked out. Kristen pulls Justin aside, tells him what's going on, and says, hey, look, since you were the last person eliminated, but we asked Jennifer to leave, we are willing to give you your spot, her spot. So you wouldn't be eliminated. You would continue on in the competition. Jennifer's going to come back on a future season. So looking forward to that, to see how she does on 100%.
Yeah.
But Justin, understandably so, says no. I need to go be with my partner. I need to be with her in the hospital room. There's no way I'm going to continue this while she's laid up in the hospital. Understandable. So then they flash forward 2 days later, and Jennifer's doing better and gives her blessing to Justin to say, "Look, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity for us.
Mm.
Go and cook and do your thing." But he doesn't come back into the main competition. He has to go through LCK like everybody else. So, spoiler alert for LCK, we'll talk about it in a minute, but he ends up not moving on. So this is
Yeah.
essentially a double elimination. So now you have kitchen restaurant wars with an odd number instead of 4 and 4. It's going to be 4-on-3.
Mhm.
And so going back to the teams, so if Jennifer's out, so now it's just Jonathan, Brandon, and Oscar. And then on the other end, you have Sherry, Anthony, and Lawrence. Anthony has immunity. Sherry, Anthony, Lawrence, and Duyen. So Anthony has immunity, so he's not going home. So it's 4-on-3 in terms of the numbers, but really it's 3 on. I mean, I guess it is kind of 3-on-3, even though you have another set of hands doing the cooking there. But a lot happening here before we get into LCK. So thoughts? What were you thinking as this was happening? You were watching it in real time.
We saw this coming. She her health was already in a bad spot, and you said it last week. Like she should just bow out and like get her health together and come back. And it sucks, man. This is not how you want to see like any competitor go out. We see it in sports all the time. Somebody gets into the playoffs, makes a deep run, tears an ACL, or blows out a knee. And so it sucks, man. It's not what you want to see. Obviously, I think this is the first time we've seen somebody really have like severe illnesses of multiple different things pop up, and having to leave the competition against your will is not what you wanted to do. Justin saying he wanted to ride for her, man, and he went through LCK and didn't, got knocked out. It sucks, man. It changes the dynamic, but we've seen this happen before in like little ways. We've seen people quit LCK. We've seen people that we found out the truth about Seeger being like, I don't want to participate in LCK. And so it's changed the whole dynamic in these last couple episodes has been a little bit tumultuous here. It's adding some good TV drama. I will say that. Like it's good for the TV drama because it's like, oh man, there's another twist. Oh man, didn't see this coming. It's not just like flat episodes where it's like Quickfire, elimination, go home. Quickfire, elimination, go home, LCK. It's adding another element out of their control. But yeah, man, it sucks that Justin went in and, he wanted to, like, be with her. Obviously, that's the natural thing to do. Like, I wanted to be with her. But we saw this. I think we talked about this in the beginning. Where, like, if one of the twins get knocked out, is it gonna, either ignite or diminish this other person's flame? If this married couple, if one gets knocked out, are they both gone? And that's exactly, we talked about this. This is exactly what happened. And so, I think it does leave LCK or not LCK. It leaves Restaurant Wars in a really weird spot. So, like, does Anthony, because he has immunity, does he become like the double GM? Does he GM both teams? Like, do they pivot him because he's like, he can't get knocked out here? Like, what's the harm if he's on both teams, or if he's giving direction to both teams? Like, I think that they should use him as the flex and kind of give him, like, all right, look, you're the odd man out. You can't lose. They're at a disadvantage, and they still have to do the same amount of work, hands down. That makes all the difference. Like, it makes all the difference in this because it's 36 hours. It moves quick. Like, they have to plan a whole restaurant concept. They have to go pick decor. They have to come up with a name. They have to come up with a menu. They have to execute the menu. Like, having a second pair or a fourth pair of hands down, I don't like it. I don't like it. I think they should move Anthony into like a dual GM role, and like, he's like, it's like when you're playing backyard football and you've got an odd number of people. Somebody plays all-time quarterback. Somebody gets behind there and they play quarterback for both teams, and they're just the guy having fun trying to throw touchdowns to both teams. I think he should just be that, and in that way it could balance it out so that Restaurant Wars is actually on a fair playing field. Because what if the three-man team is just struggling? What if they struggle the whole time? And they're like, we needed another person. What if they struggled and one of them gets knocked out? It's not fair. Like, it's not fair at all. So I think if I were the producers in the situation, I would be like, we got to pivot Anthony into, or we got to bring somebody back in, or we got to figure out a solve here, because this is not going to be, it's not a fair playing field.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what they do next week if they move Anthony into an Iron Man position, playing both offense and defense,
Yeah.
and kind of seeing how he does. Or do they leave it at 4-3 and be like, look, this is reality for millions of chefs in America. Your sous chef calls out, and you're down a person. You just got to still make it work. So who knows? I mean, who knows? But what's that?
I said, we will see.
Yeah, we will see for sure. So I do want to talk about Seeger for just a second. We talked about him last week, and I had put up a TikTok on at Eat Your Content. Follow me on TikTok there, and we talked about Seeger and where is he? What's the speculation? And some people commented underneath it that said, "Well, I think Jennifer's going to leave early, and they're going to bring Seeger back to go into LCK." And they were half right. Jennifer did bow out, but Seeger was nowhere to be found. So this tells us he is like gone. He is not coming back. So Justin coming into LCK, a double elimination. So again, the speculation continues. Where did Seeger go? We don't know, but he just decided to bow out, I guess, of the whole competition, and we're not going to see him in the future. So with LCK, it was Rhoda versus Justin, and the challenge was to create a dish that represents randomly pulled words out of a knife block. In this case, it was whipped, alien, and glamorous, this is basically a recycle of that kid improv quickfire from a few episodes back. It's the same thing, but just weirder words. Whipped, alien, and glamorous. Like, I didn't even know where to go from there. Like, I mean, whipped and glamorous, okay, but you throw alien in there, like, well, what do you do? I guess you got to try to cook something weird. But Rhoda did mushroom toast with whipped mascarpone and caviar. Justin did a whipped beef tallow, scallops, tuna tartare, and roasted olives. There, Tom was like, okay, I could see where it was alien. You had some green olives, and the mushrooms looked alien until they were cooked. Now they just look like mushrooms. What did you think of this challenge? I thought it was odd. I mean, it wasn't my favorite LCK challenge, but I mean, what do you
It
think?
started off being interesting, and then when I saw Alien as the first one, I was like, what are we doing? Like, why? Who wrote these? Who wrote these? Like, who wrote this? Alien, how does that apply to food? Like, there's use a different acronym, use a different adjective. Like, when then whipped is like, all right, cool. And then glamorous, sure, we can make it work. But the first night that got pulled, I was a little confused. I was like, what direction is this going? Are they gonna give them something to, like, I don't know. I just octopus? Do I use
I guess.
tentacle?
Yeah.
Octopus are aliens kind of ish. They're like the aliens of the sea besides mermaids or whatever. But like, what are we doing? Like, how do you can't cook octopus in that amount of time in 30 minutes? Like, it's not happening unless you use the pressure cooker. Like, and that's a gamble. I'm not doing that to, like, depend on if I'm going home or not. I guess it's not cool, man. Like, we got to get a little bit creative here. Yeah, give a better word. Give
It
better
was just
grades.
it was just weird. It was just odd. Not my
That was.
favorite. It was fine, I guess. But the dishes didn't really. I mean, you can't cook alien. I don't know. Maybe plate it with some dry ice and you have some smoke. I guess I don't know. That it was just odd. But anyway, Rhoda Rhoda wins Last Chance Kitchen. Justin was faulted for the tuna tartare that was in his dish. His dish actually looked really beautiful. But the tuna tartare was a little too much. Gilded the lily a little too much there, a little too much dip on the cracker, and it got him dip on the chip. Sorry, and got him eliminated. So Justin is out. Double elimination this week. Just wild. But it is making for good television. This is really the prelude to Restaurant Wars. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen next week. How are they going to manage a 4-on-3 Restaurant War team? We'll see. It's going to be really interesting. But they mentioned it next week. They said the difference between the winners and the losers was a fine line. So clearly there was a lot of issues going on if that was happening. Or it could be the other end where everybody was really good and it was a fine line to try to figure out who was bad. So it could go one way or the other. It's either both teams are really bad or both teams are really good. But neither team stood out in one way or the other. So I'm really looking forward to Restaurant Wars next week. It's always my favorite episode because it's just so fast paced, it's so chaotic, and it has the most opportunity for drama to pop up. So, what do you think? So this episode was full of twists and turns, but it was fun to watch. It was fast paced. Yeah, it was good.
It was a good episode overall. I liked everything about it, and in terms of like the twists and turns, the food that was cooked, the challenge were good. I'm excited for Restaurant Wars. I think you know what I'm actually most excited for is the hill after Restaurant Wars.
Oh
Like
yeah,
my whole goal was like, look, if I get to Restaurant Wars, I'm good. Like, and I fell right in front of that, and I wish I would have been able to compete in Restaurant Wars, but like I say that because things get way more serious after Restaurant Wars. We've weeded
yeah,
out, the people who didn't get back. The person's coming back typically from Last Chance Kitchen gets thrown back into the fold, and so it gets very serious post Restaurant Wars, and that's where like the bread and butter starts getting made, and you start seeing like who's really like throwing their hat to make the top three. We're in that mix, and LCK or not LCK, the Quickfire now becomes like a part of like your total challenge as we saw in my season. So like, are they going to implement that again? Everything gets so serious post Restaurant Wars, and that's what I'm most excited for. I love Restaurant Wars, but I like how everything tightens up and everybody's like, look, like I could be on a shoot to kill if I go 0 for 2 on the Quickfire and in the elimination challenge. I'm going home. We saw Tristan like kind of stutter in my season and like had to like barely scramble back, and then the challenges just get progressively harder and the judges get harder with their judging. Like it everything gets more serious, and Top Chef goes from like the fun whimsical version in the first couple of challenges in the first half to like over the hill, and then things get really serious, and it's like who's trying to win, who's throwing their hat in the ring. I think we're seeing a couple people that are like there right now, and it's kind of I think I can pick out who's going to be the top three, but you never know. Like I didn't think we would have saw Rhoda like knocked out this early, but somebody really strong always does. Somebody really strong always gets knocked out early, and so we're at that point now where like we're coming into my favorite part of the series. Like who's trying to win Top Chef? Who's going to
yep.
be crowned the next king or queen of the kitchen?
Yeah, we're hitting the back half of the season. So let's go over our draft points. We're halfway through the season with episode 7. I came out strong in the early part of the season. I was clearly kicking your tail, but you had a really good stretch over these last 3 or 4 episodes. Today, you have beaten me 17-7 for this episode after all the points are divvied up.
I took it
And
home.
so far for the season, you are winning 75-42. So it's getting the spread is getting wider and wider there. And as far as individual chefs' performance, Anthony Jones is killing it. He's got 37 total points so far, and Louis is in second with 26 points on the overall point total. So still a game. We still got a lot of episodes to go, and when we get to the finale is when we ratchet up the points there. So looking forward to see how it plays out. Maybe I'll have a second half comeback, like you said. The second half gets serious. The crucible of Restaurant Wars really burns off the impurities impurities of these chefs as they go through that, and then we'll see how they perform in the second half. So, Chef Corwin, give you the last couple of minutes there. Where can people find you on socials if they want to follow your adventures, and what's going on at the restaurant this week?
Follow me on Instagram, Chef Corwin Hemming. Lot going on at the restaurant, full of parties. Springtime is in full effect. A lot of new dishes, tweaks, menu changes coming up. So super excited for that. My kids, the twins, they're getting bigger, they're getting fat, they're crawling, they're walking, they're talking. So many things are happening in my life that are exciting. So I'm like literally watching my babies like come into their own personality right now. That's where my mind is. Outside of food, that's where my mind is my babies. They're getting fat and juicy, and they're so like interactive now. And like I walked downstairs this morning and they were like eyes lit up, like dad. They can't say dad yet, but hands went out and I heard dad, dad. You know, they haven't said any words yet, but that's the word that I heard in my head. So yeah, there's all good things, man. Just in a good spring mix, not too much rain, nice weather coming. So things are good. Can't
Awesome.
complain.
It's always fun watching chefs become new fathers because their Instagram changes from beautifully plated plates to now kid photos.
Or kid food.
Or
I'm
kid
about to
food.
start. There'll be 6 months in like a week, so I get to like start making baby purees. Man, I'm gonna get mixy. I already got ideas. I'm like, all right, like can't use any seasonings, but they're gonna get gourmet baby purees, like 100% clean. I'm going to the farmer's market. We're gonna do this right. These babies are gonna be fat. They're gonna get
Dang.
fat.
Sounds good. Looking
Yeah.
forward to that. Well, looking forward to next week. We got Restaurant Wars next week. So that's going to be a fun episode to talk about. Until then, Chef Corwin, have a good day.
Over and out. I'll see you, Rich. Thank you.